Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay. So here I have Priyavat, our propulsion expert, Pratyush, our aerodynamics expert, and Suyansh, our CAD engineer, with me here. So would you guys like to start us off as to how your experience at Celestial Aerospace has been till now?
So I'll start off. So I work in design department, and right now I'm working on an indigenous holding mechanism, and I'm involved in both designing and the structures aspect of it. And till now, my experience in in aerospace have been awesome. I've been given the opportunity to work with highly skilled people, and apart from that, everyone here is very friendly and in overall it's a very welcoming atmosphere.
Pratyush, would you like to carry us forward?
Yeah, so it's been a fun journey till now, and I hope it will be continued the same way. So the main reason I joined Celestial because of the concept we talked on call before joining. It's the launch vehicles. From what I believe, the launch vehicles have been similar in their operations from 1970s, and we thought of a different idea, and it will. I thought it would be nice to work on it from scratch, doing calculations on the drawing board, and then take it to manufacturing and realizing all that. So that was the main motivation behind joining System. Okay, so for me also, it's been fun journey. Uh, where to start? So basically, again, here's a place where we are able to apply even the concepts we were learning in the eighth and ninth grades. Basically, it started with buoyancy and Pascal's law, and it was a crazy concept to start off with. That will be able to lift a, let's say, load of 50 to 150 tons just by balloon share buoyancy force, and then launching a vehicle from there. It's like a new thing in the market, and I'll be very delighted to work on that. And it's a very fortunate time for me that I am involved in this kind of journey. How you came up with that idea? What was your motivation behind coming up with something like a balloon?
So on the face of it, rockets have been the same for the longest time. I mean, from the point where the first rocket engine was developed to even if I, let's say, consider SpaceX making reusable engines, it essentially just stayed the same, and not much has changed since then. Considering humanity's goal of becoming interplanetary, and if I look at rocket refueling as a concept, in the long run, something more sustainable is and efficient and sufficient is needed for us to become a multiplanetary species. And multiplanetary, I mean, one day, eventually, at a given point in the timeline, we would want to go beyond our galaxy as well, especially our solar system, at least. So something new had to be developed for that. As for interplanetary, I mean, the balloon concept really harps upon the fact that it can act as both a lifting force till the 30-kilometer mark, which essentially removes the requirement of a booster. Then you need lesser fuel as you don't have a booster, you're burning less amount of fuel. Then that gas inside the balloon can also be used as a form of propulsion in space to move from Earth orbit to any other planet's orbit.
Anything you guys want to share? Where you got inspiration? There might be something, right? You looked upon or you read somewhere. Like, what was the sheer motivation to just go into the balloon?
To go into the balloon,
Why? I mean, why balloon?
for the balloon specifically, it would be around the fact that if I start from long back, so I had a huge fascination with helium balloons. The fact that they just you left them and then they went up, and I'm like talking about when I was like 3 or 4, so it was very interesting for me. And then later, few years down the line, I learned about why it happens. And I don't know, maybe from those experiences, this concept of that a rocket should be lifted from a balloon came up. Then I started researching on it, realized that many other companies, so much so even NASA has worked upon it but not been able to do it. And I went about, but that didn't demotivate me. I still went on to do my research on my end of it. I needed some sort of validation for it before I went forward, so I even contacted few people who were in this space. They provided a sense of confirmation, I would say. They didn't confirm the concept precisely, but they provide on the face of it, they provided a sense of, they agreed with the concept that yes, this is the way you've done it is feasible. Plus, the when I made the idea, it revolved around us being it being an interplanetary travel method, not a normal satellite insertion vehicle. So, from if I go with you, from the aerodynamics perspective, what are your thoughts on something like this?
Something like this is possible, it can be realized, and that's what we are trying to achieve at Celestial. Obviously, the if we use balloon, then we are considerably reducing the gravity and the drag losses, which is a major concern while achieving the delta V in rockets. Other than that, the point from where we are actually starting our vehicle, the air density is very thin. It's around 0.018 instead of 1.25. So that actually complements the propulsion aspect of our vehicle. So from aerodynamics point of view, it is a good. It is obviously difficult to control that vehicle when it is falling down. It's free falling under the effect of gravity when it's separated from the balloon, and that is one of the major challenges that we have to tackle. But once that is tackled, it is making the complete operation of reaching the orbit more, I will not say easy, but more sustainable or more optimized. Yeah.
So, don't you spend some time learning about structures, I mean, materials, and then building a structure for the connection? What are your views on the structure part of it, of course, and the materials that you've read about being utilized in something like this? How do the current materials that exist, which are used commonly, how can they be used for something like this? How can they be used, or would you say that something new needs to be developed? I believe the new materials that have been developed, especially the alloys, they have the potential to carry the load that we are aiming for. But in an aspect that we have to make sure that the material, especially the holding mechanism we talk about, is the lightest, will be the lightest. For that, I think we need to develop something new to make sure it is the lightest, because right now the yield strength and the compressive strength, everything, the materials that are currently in the market are able to hold the weight that we want. But if I talk about the light weight part, it will be a challenge for us to make sure that it works. Rivert, what are your I just wanted to ask you, Pratyush, you spoke about the advantage of using balloons as an aerodynamic point of view, because that concept of skin friction and pressure drag becomes very clear. Like it becomes like 80-20%, right? So how do you think, let's say in the near future, if we are going with the interplanetary mission, how are we going to tackle with the shock bouncing and the drag part? Because once we started doing the calculations, we realized that this is going, let's say, 1,000% more than what we usually expect in a normal launch vehicle. So, how do you think we'll be able to tackle those? What are your possible solutions and thought, imagination about it? The bouncing of shock, right? Just not that, how we're going to manage the shape so that we'll be able to reduce the drag significantly, or will just change the orientation of the vehicle, or will make a vehicle out of a balloon. To add to what he's saying, I would like from you, I would also like to know that since we're not launching from sea level, what are some changes that our vehicle, like the rocket part of it, would have as compared to a traditional vehicle, considering that we are skipping that dense phase of the atmosphere? See, even if we are launching from 30 kilometers altitude, for us also max Q will come.
where the dynamic pressure will be maximum. All obviously the altitude will be higher from generic launch vehicles from where they achieve max speed, but loads will be there. The main part is the bending loads, the bending stresses that our vehicle will encounter due to the aero loads will be less compared to what generic launch vehicles encounter. So we can actually go with a low L by D. We need not to. We can even go with a higher L by D. Sorry. And if you are going with a higher L by D, your aerodynamic efficiency of the vehicle is increasing. The flow has more space to be attached, basically quanta effect. So that was one thing that is actually increasing the aerodynamic efficiency of the vehicle. Other than that, to answer your question, Priyavat, that obviously we cannot go with a bouncy structure because if the shocks are bouncing, if they are oscillating in a particular manner, that will increase the buffet loads and the other aeroelastic loads on the vehicle, which can lead to catastrophic failure as well.
Priyavat, from your propulsion's perspective.
I had one more question.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So you're talking about that we'll be able to handle more dynamic loads because our density becomes thinner, and it depends upon at how much density the fluid around our vehicle is coming off, right? So it means we can go with a higher design angle of attack with the same materials and same thickness. So if let's say we have a higher angle of attack, design angle of attack, what are the possible benefits we'll be able to get? Is it about pitch over maneuver or gravity turn? How we'll be able to optimize our ISP for, let's say, for overall vehicle, like in a simple terms, how we'll be able to achieve higher delta V by spending less amount of fuel?
So basically, first I'll clear what design angle of attack does.
Yes.
What design angle of attack does, it basically restricts, just similar to aircrafts. Like in aircrafts, we have a stalling angle at 550 degrees to 80 degrees. If the aircraft is going beyond that, it will stop. Similar to launch vehicles, the design angle of attack is kept somewhere between 2 to 3 degrees. Because if the angle of attack is made more, the effective angle of attack goes more than 3 degrees, the loads that are acting on the vehicle will not be able to sustain that, and it will bend or it will break from certain points like interstage or intertank. So basically, in our case, we can, if we are like in our case, we can go up to more design angle of attack. We can go up to 5 to 7 degrees. That will give us the range of more stability and more maneuverability. Generally, these two things doesn't come along. If your vehicle is stable, then it is not maneuverable, and if your vehicle is maneuverable, it is not stable. But we can achieve both those things in our case because the loads that are the aero loads or the aerodynamic moments that are acting on our vehicle are less. And also, if we are starting from 30 kilometers, from 30 to 50 kilometers, our acceleration is not that high; it is slow one. So the part again where the if I start my datum at 30 kilometers, so up to 20 kilometers when my density is high, that time also my vehicle's velocity is not that much. So my max Q is still very less. And the main benefit is that only that gravity losses and drag losses are minimized to very much extent. So that means less fuel can be taken. Less fuel can be taken means less is the weight. If the fuel less fuel is required means payload capacity is more. All those things. So vehicle that is designed to launch from sea level. If two same vehicles are designed to launch from sea level, one can take 1,000 kgs. Our vehicle can, with same specifications, can take up to 2,000 or 2,500 kgs. That is the major
Upside as a satellite insertion tool.
yeah. Even for interplanetary as well. For
Yeah.
interplanetary, you need more payload capacity. You cannot just go with 1,000 or 2,500. You need something like 100 tons of capacity. So that can be achieved with this concept.
So, from the propulsion's aspect, from designing India's most powerful hydrolox engine, um, what are some things this concept made you think differently from the traditional thrust rocket engine? Plus, again, what I said to him, you're launching from 30 kilometers height or 35 kilometers height, not sea level. So, what are a few things in those regards?
So basically, when any engineer, because let's be clear about it, there is not much difference between aerodynamics and propulsion when it comes to, because basically even he'll be able to understand and he can make sense out of it, because aerodynamics is basically external flow and after we have done the combustion in a combustion chamber, even that becomes a compressible flow. Only difference is the Reynolds number and all things parameters changes. So basically, what happens when a designer starts designing a skirt or a nozzle or a thrust chamber, basically. So what happens now if they are starting from sea level? So the back pressure or ambient pressure is 1 atmosphere. So we cannot design a nozzle with exit pressure less than zero point 0.3 bars because zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.4 bars because the flow starts to separate and the nozzle won't make sense. So by increasing the length of nozzle, we can significantly increase our ISP. So basically what we do is we increase the length so that we are expanding the flow more, and pressure and velocities are somewhere indirectly inversely proportional to each other. So we'll be able to get higher delta, sorry, exit velocity for the same pressure ratios because we have the more longer uh, nozzle and our flow won't separate. So that was a good thing for me, that from for our booster, let's say if our first stage is balloon and our second stage is, let's say, which is commonly referred to as booster stages in other vehicles, can also have very high what do we call it, area ratios. So that was one thing. Like usually engineers, always there is this saying in propulsion that if we can somehow make change area changing nozzles or somehow control the area ratio, that challenges a lot of problems. So we'll be able to get higher ISP. So the design becomes more simplified. So that was the point. What I thought was, yeah, this concept makes more sense in this manner.
So, how was your experience in terms of? So, I would ask you if to be specific about our thrust chamber. So, how did you determine whether to go with Kerolox or Hydrolox? If I look at these two.
So basically, it's not just about Keralox and Hydrolox. People have this misconception. Let me just clear that out because there has been a lot of false stigma around this fact that liquid propulsion is better than solid propellant or hypergolics. It's just about we have to launch a payload into orbit, and we need, it's pure optimization problem. We cannot be biased about it. If solid makes more sense, we'll go with solid. And in near future also, if we are increasing our payload capacity and we need to achieve higher, we need to share our delta V with, let's say, we need to add another stage, we'll obviously can choose hypergolic or solid propellants. We don't have that
Of
kind.
course, I wasn't. I was not ruling
Yeah,
solid propellant
correct.
out. I was just
Why we did
asking.
Keralox, and this was one thing was higher ISP. Second thing was, if let's say people nowadays have created this again false stigma around fully reusable vehicle, and if you have seen stock space, they are actively cooling their upper stage while re-entering. So which is a better propellant than hydrogen? It's have specific heat capacity of around 10,000, and kerosene is around a quarter or one third. I'm not sure about the number. So our cooling makes more sense. And another thing, engineers like challenges, and hydrogen is the most challenging propellant to deal with. And if once we are able to crack it, we can make any other engine. And there are many other benefits if we look at it.
What do you guys think? Do you really think कि ये जो sci-fi movies और comic books होते हैं, these are actually an inspiration to actually जो aerospace में चीजें बन रही हैं?
To be very frank, yes, because अगर आप काफी सारी sci-fi movies देखोगे, the concept of landing a rocket with legs, बहुत time से, from ever since the CGI movie started, where people could probably properly edit and make fictional things, UFOs landing. So much so the oldest Star Wars movies have those ships coming down and legs folding out and landing. And even before that, proper rockets, the three-legged rockets, legs folding out and landing. And I mean, that is how SpaceX landed their rockets initially, with legs, folding legs. So from that perspective, it is an inspiration.
Yes.
And
I think even Christopher Nolan is one of the biggest example in this case. If you see Interstellar, they have given the image of black hole much before it was actually taken.
yeah,
But that was calculated by scientists. वो scientists were
Arey, they spent $50 million on computing power just to generate that image.
yeah.
That's again
calculate किया था proper कि इस lateral view से how a black hole will look like.
And it was a very big debate after that, that it doesn't look like that. But scientists, after we generated the actual by
मतलब मेरा
converting,
बेसिकली क्वेश्चन था कि क्या जो भी एरोस्पेस जैसे आया मैं तो हूँ क्या एरोस्पेस इंजीनियर स्टार ट्रेक स्टार वॉर्स देखने की वजह से एरोस्पेस इंजीनियर बनते हैं और फिर उन्हीं चीजों से
अरे
इंस्पायर
इस बात के बारे में तो मेरे पास सबूत है भाई. इन late 18th 19th century, I told you about it. There was a writer, fiction writer. He wrote a book that there will be a stick kind of cylinder structure which will lift off from ground. It will go to moon and land. The whole rocket concept came from there, from a book only. It was
You
a
look at
sci-fi
that,
book.
or like from an aero perspective, won't a UFO type shaped structure be very efficient as a rocket if it can be figured out how the propulsions and everything will work for it?
Only in vacuum for now.
Like if I'm talking about an interplanetary vehicle,
Correct.
yes.
That makes more sense.
we have मतलब मेरे हमारे सबके हमने डिस्कस किया था तो एक है कॉन्फ़िगरेशन वाइंग we will not disclose it right now.
We have an understanding of
We have
it.
an understanding of how
Details coming soon. Details coming soon.
how to fly. But basically, तो जो comic book writers है, Stanley is the biggest inspiration for aerospace kids rather than scientists. Von Braun से ज़्यादा लोग Stanley से inspire हुए.
अरे because he was able to draw, he was able to illustrate few things, right?
या इसने जो वो वाली बात की ना कि आइडिएशन से थ्योरी तक वो लेके आया फिर उस थ्योरी को रियलाइज करने के लिए इंजीनियर्स ने बोला यार ये बता क्यों नहीं पा रहे
Correct.
लेट्स मेक इट
And there are so many people. I met a guy in college. He went to US, University of Alabama. He was doing his MS and PhD just to make a Iron Man suit.
तो मैंने भी कुछ केसेस
So it's purely based on that, no? Because
Even that guy on YouTube who's made that hydrogen repulsor, who's trying to become Iron Man, I think he's an engineer by profession, like from degree. That Russian guy, I don't know if you've seen him.
मेरे को तो वही रशियन गाय बताया जिसने घर में लेट मशीन से गैस टरबाइन इंजन बना दिया
yeah,
जस्ट यूज
या फिर तो वो the guy who we were talking about that day, वो बंदा जो 3D printed parts और random
वो
2A
भी
के
है.
parts से
correct.
engines, turbines बना देता है.
Even this,
बट दैट इज मोर लाइक DIY rather than
Sure,
It's
but
like
it
जुगाड़
works and
है,
it's
but it's हाँ it's a जुगाड़
at least it works.
engineering is also some optimized और highly efficient जुगाड़ only
Yeah.
something but ऐसा जुगाड़ बोलना गलत हो जाएगा
We try. What engineers do is they, see this is the constraint and they'll just find a way and go around it. That's engineering. Yeah, but still, moreover, what in the comics, no people were able to see things. So at least the inspiration where they started off their designs for vehicles or spaceships or something started from there, and from there they started optimizing their process.
so मतलब people मतलब वही मैं थोड़ी देर पहले बोल भी रहा था कि एवरीथिंग इज 9 10 11 12 फिजिक्स और उन लोगों ने कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं पढ़ी और उनको बेसिक फिजिक्स समझ आती है एंड दे जस्ट बेस्ड ऑन कॉमन सेंस कि ऐसा बनना चाहिए कुछ दे मेड इट दैट पीपल रियलाइज
Entire rocket is sized based on that equation. What is that equation called?
Celestial rocket equation.
And he was a maths teacher. He was a Russian maths teacher.
So जैसे तूने बोला कि 18th century में एक बंदा फिक्शन में लिख किया था कि रॉकेट विल बी लाइक अ स्टिक एंड इट विल लिफ्ट ऑफ एंड देन इवेंचुअली 21st century में लोगों ने बना लिया
just Simpsons जैसी चीज हो गई.
Correct.
तो अब जैसे हमने देखा है कि स्टार ट्रेक और स्टार वॉर्स में वॉर्प स्पीड वाइट होल्स ब्लैक होल्स वर्म होल्स ये सब दिखाया तो डू यू थिंक कि ये सब चीजें भी आगे जाके एक्चुअल मैनकाइंड में हम देख पाएंगे
So I have an opinion about this actually. So wormholes के लिए specifically. So warp speed I feel is achievable at the pace humanity is innovating. ठीक है? I'm not saying anytime soon, but eventually there will be a point where someone, hopefully us, is able to make a vehicle that can reach warp speed.
वॉर्प स्पीड लेकिन वैक्यूम में पॉसिबल है
हाँ. No, but I'm saying so about that. So around the speed of warp speed or higher is the point where we can understand if wormholes are like travelable. Even if we can understand if they exist before that or not, but at that point is when हमें समझ आएगा कि हम उनसे travel कर सकते हैं. Are they like we thought? Do they work in the way that you go in at one point and then you come out at another?
I was telling you guys, no, he knows. I wanted to go for PhD to MIT, right? So I wanted to work on EM wave, electromagnetic waves. That is the only theoretical, what people have done calculation, that is the only way we can reach 99.9% of speed of light. If we are able to somehow, maybe in this century or 50 years from now, with the pace of the technology growing, if we are able to achieve, we'll be able to see all these things. I wanted to work on that technology. It's EM wave technology.
हम दोनों एक दिन डिस्कस करें तो हम दोनों की ऐसी थ्योरी है कि इवन जो स्पीड ऑफ लाइट हमें पता है
That is not the actual speed of light. It's
speed of light is way higher.
We were all discussing when we were discussing about the concept
theory
of time.
action.
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 Theory of time and theory minimum time and minimum.
Yeah, when we were talking about how it's relative to the movement of that carbon atom
Correct.
and how it's the watchmaker's concept.
Watch.
टाइम तो आया इसलिए भी लोगों को घड़ियां बेचनी बट सही है
Guys, moon landing असली है.
क्या क्या पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है तेरा मून लैंडिंग
Based on the technology, if I look at it, see, landing on Earth is difficult than landing on Moon. If you take out this picture, that if we flatten the surface of Moon, if our calculations are right, the density is way lower than it's very.
जीरो
तो you can basically तुम्हें इतने ज्यादा thrust भी नहीं चाहिए ना उसको stabilize करने के लिए, उसको land करने के लिए.
उसमें प्रॉब्लम हुआ है कि नीचे आके
Uneven.
कुछ ऊपर ना चला जाए
वो problem.
बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम
You need dampers for
Like
that.
that bounce.
We need dampers for that.
बट आए तो प्रो हार्ट भाई की लैंडिंग हुई थी आई बिलीव
मैं भी मानता हूँ.
मेरे को नहीं लगता कि उन्होंने फेक किया होगा आई बिलीव कि
Then
लैंडिंग
why did they make movie? Fly me to the moon.
आई बिलीव कि लैंडिंग हुई थी नील आर्मस्ट्रॉन्ग ने सही में पहला कदम रखा है चांद पे
No, but we have seen that picture. No, first time that green or bluish picture of Earth came in that orbit from that orbit.
Also, I did mirror रखा है जो humans रखते हैं.
Arey, that is in the Big Bang Theory also. No, they
Yeah, they point the laser.
they'll shoot a laser.
Will destroy the planet
Ever imagined if we are lost in space, pure dark? How will that will be?
Honestly depressing. Considering कि वो white room जो होता है, which people go the silent white room, where there's no noise and they say people can go crazy in like 20 minutes. तो उस white को black कर दो, you can't see anything, you can't hear anything, you're just floating. मतलब essentially, other than the sense of touch that you can feel in the glove and maybe the sense that when you blow very hard, the air bounces back from your glass in your spacesuit and it hits back to you, that you don't feel anything else. How
People are going to survive for 9 months if they have to travel to Mars. What entertainment we can plan for them?
I mean, there's a lot of entertainment. It's like essentially you'll make a proper house.
हाँ, मैं भी ये बोला प्लेयर भेज देंगे वहाँ पे उनके.
हाँ, घर बनेगा प्रॉपर
FIFA खेलते हुए.
मैं तो फीफा खेलते खेलते पहुंच जाऊँ
9 महीने.
होगा वो
Obviously.
होगा ही.
That's what I'm saying. Proper flight. You'll like distribute the entire living quarters into different houses for different people. Okay, let's everything aside, jokes aside. What is Celestial's trajectory? Not the rocket, our trajectory as to our work. So, if to start us off, beyond our computations and theoretical aspect of work, to prove our concept, we're developing a CAT-V Celestial Aerospace test vehicle, which works on a solid motor as our first prototype. It basically proves for us, it's a research tool.
Data generation.
Exactly.
And failure cases of scenarios, and we'll be able to understand that basically it's about sequence of things which will happen.
Yeah.
Jettison coming
modern
out.
rocket is way better data generation tool than CFD.
Obviously, anytime.
That
Yeah.
is
And then we have Phoenix Small. Phoenix is the name of our vehicle. Small is the miniature version which takes less payload. So Phoenix Small is basically our semi-commercial model, which essentially uses our Hydrolox engine of our actual Phoenix vehicle, lesser number of the engines, and then takes a payload of roughly between 300 600 kilograms to orbit.
Basically, Phoenix is our modular rocket now. By changing the number of engines,
Exactly.
we are changing our payload capacity.
And
It's
then
very idle for CubeSats and all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, more than anything, it places us as a satellite launching company in the market. It makes a image for us.
First of all, I want to make one thing clear. People say that rocket, they did maiden flight. For me, qualification, at least matrix is reaching orbit.
correct.
Until and unless you don't reach an orbit, you should not call yourself as a rocket company
For sure.
which had made it. Till that time, everybody is in the development phase.
Yeah, because I mean, at this stage,
Yeah.
there are model rockets which people can buy for around few lakh, which are pretty big and are pretty powerful as well, but they don't reach orbit, do they?
Let's say
Exactly.
they reach orbit also.
Yeah.
Will be they able to achieve delta V?
And reaching orbit is the point जहाँ पे रेस शुरू होती है. लोगों का
Exactly.
माइंडसेट है कि बस ऑर्बिट पहुंच गया रेस खत्म हो गई.
वहां से शुरुआत है.
500 किलोमीटर से तो शुरू हुआ है सब कुछ. अब
Yeah. I mean, this is one positive point about my ideation timeline, that मैंने सीधा अपने कॉन्सेप्ट को इंटरप्लैनेटरी से शुरू किया था. छोटे से बड़ा नहीं लेके गया, मैं बड़े से छोटा लाया. Which was that an engineer job is कि आपने एक बार एक प्रोडक्ट बना लिया, you're supposed to make it most efficient and most cost optimized. So मैंने एक बार एक ideation theory बना ली थी, उसके बाद we brought it down to a proper business timeline of it, how it will come to life. So more about the business timeline, then comes our Phoenix rocket, which takes about roughly 1.8 tons of payload. Can even perform human spaceflight missions, let's say to ISS.
Can carry at least 2 to 3 crew. 2 to 3 people.
around 2000 kg.
Yeah.
2 to 3 because they need life support.
Exactly.
All other things.
क्या इंडिया में रॉकेट कंपनीज पैसा कमा पा रही है?
First, let them make rockets here.
To answer your question,
First of all, okay, jokes aside, this is the industry where, in order to make even $1 out of it, good buck out of it, you need to spend at least 15-20 years.
yeah,
That's the timeline.
yeah.
Even I
Best
think
example is SpaceX. Yeah.
20, it took how many years for them to break even?
It
18,
took them
20 plus
19 years, 19 to
19.
20 years, or maybe around 21, I think.
Correct.
इलेक्ट्रॉन इतना ऑप्टिमाइज रॉकेट है, रॉकेट लाइक पैसा ही नहीं बना पाता उससे.
So this is actually one reason why in the business strategy I came up with the concept of commercializing our proper test vehicle, which is our Phoenix Mini, because you, other than investors, you have your own cash flow coming in.
Correct.
Of course. Second, you have a list of customers who are willing to launch with you. First and second, as we develop from our Phoenix Mini to our Phoenix, they will also be developing their own technology, right? Even they'll be growing. So from the point where they're launching CubeSats, they'll reach a point where they're also launching bigger satellites, which we will be able to cater to. Exactly. And then India is trying to increase sending astronauts to the ISS, and being an Indian company,
Next
will do that.
geopolitical superpower will be based on space.
Yeah.
People must understand it. Now the biggest upper hand is in US because Facebook, Apple, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Amazon, everybody is putting loads of satellites into the orbit. If you
Yeah.
look at it, anybody who has control over data will control the world.
Exactly.
The thing is that, and satellites will eventually become smaller because that depends somewhere linearly with the ratio of growth in semiconductor industry and chip
Yeah.
industry. So
It
chips
depends on everything. Like, it's only a matter of time till satellite internet removes the concept of SIMs.
Yesterday he was asking me this question. No, let's say 30 years from now, everybody is going for nuclear propulsion, plasma propulsion somehow. So we'll be calling the today staged combustion, cryogenic combustion obsolete. Like they are very old, they are waste.
Right now, what people are saying solid propulsion.
About solid and hypercooling. Would you think people will start saying that?
People will start saying that, but do I agree with it? Not really.
Correct. That's the main thing. People must understand.
I mean, okay, all things set aside, why do you want to rule out solid as the
Correct.
form of propulsion for you?
Correct.
You never know in your research and in your data that solid might just become the most efficient for your particular
Raw power.
innovation.
Solid has the highest thrust to weight, highest
Exactly.
acceleration.
Even in US, SLS uses solid rocket.
Correct. Hydrogen powered rockets has this problem of initial thrust to weight problem. So what solid does is it gives you initial, let's say we need 10,000 meter per second, including all the gravity and aerodynamic losses. If let's say it gives you 2000 delta V also, you know how much amount of propellant we are able to save. It's about that. Yeah, you are going about companies' trajectories.
So it's still here. Mainly, one important thing I feel is that yes, you should have your own cash flow with your investors if you can do that. If it is possible for do. And second, be the most optimized with the money that you have and are getting.
We
Is
need to manage
one-
our own burn rate,
exactly.
right? After some time, some point of time.
Yeah. Even at the very beginning, right now, also we don't go around doing frivolous expenditures for no reason. Like if I talk about aero, we're not doing unnecessary wind tunnel tests because we also understand that it's a wastage of capital right now. We'll do it when it is the most required, and is at the idea stage where we need to do a wind tunnel test, not for just for the sake of it that we've done a wind tunnel test. And similarly, even for our test fires, there's no point in test firing something that is not at the stage to be test fired.
एक ट्यूब में मोम भर के आग थोड़ी लगानी है.
Once we develop our injector, that will be the time we'll be firing our first hot fire.
Yeah.
And that will be happening very soon. Stay tuned. 100 and very powerful hydrolox engine, hot fire, coming very soon.
नंबर बोल दिया था ऑलमोस्ट.
जब तक आवाज आई
No, yaar. Think about it, yaar. Hydrolox engine, yaar. Raw power.
और एक और बहुत अच्छी चीज सेलेस्टियल वाली वो थी यार, मेरे को मतलब हम दोनों की वो बात होती है, जो कॉन्सेप्ट है इंटरप्लैनेटरी व्हीकल वाला, उसमें वी कैन प्ले विद द शेप. बोथ ऑफ अस थिंक वेरी स्ट्रांगली कि रॉकेट्स आर अगली.
Very ugly.
The shape has to change. People are not working on it. मतलब मेरे को ऐसा लगता है लोग एरोडायनामिक्स को अंडरमाइन कर देते हैं कि ग्रेविटी खत्म हो गई है 40 किलोमीटर पे, नाउ वी डोंट नीड इट, सो बस मैक्स क्यों निकल जाए, उसके बाद हमें चाहिए.
But I want to admire it. Look at Pagani, look at Lambos.
Correct.
Not just power, right? They look
Pagani is a
beautiful.
piece of art, yeah. The ideology behind that car is phenomenal.
That's how we want to play with rocket ships. That is possible in that interplanetary.
Do you know Pagani के जो mirrors हैं, they're based off of his wife's eyes.
I know. I don't know it. I have seen some cartoon anime characters also, like flies and all. They have these kind of eyes. अरे Ben 10 में
बंदे
there
की
was this
बीवी
alien
की
था.
आँख को मक्खी
ना.
बुला दिया.
अबे नहीं, Ben 10 में एक था एलियन यार, उसकी आंखें ऐसे हैं.
हाय राम.
वो मक्खी जैसी जो था,
उसकी आंखें
हाय
बिल्कुल
राम.
वैसी थी.
उसका नाम क्या था, मैं नाम भूल
भाई
गया.
वो तो उसने
स्टिंग
हाँ स्टिंग बी, वो तो उसने अपनी बीवी को बोला होगा ना, उसने बनाया तो स्टिंग बी के लिए होगा, है ना? वैसी ही है ना, जोंडा की जैसी आंखें. सॉरी अगर आपको बुरा लगे तो देखेगा ही नहीं पड़ेगा.
होपफुली आप तक पहुंच जाए ये वीडियो.
एक्सट्रीम नहीं करना है अपने आप को एक फिजिकली एक
अरे
शेप को
नहीं.
लेके.
बट लोगों ने काफी काम कर भी लिया. उस दिन कल परसों बैठ के एक शेप पे हम पहुंचे कि ये बनाते हैं, दिस लुक्स क्रेजी. बाद में रिसर्च किया तो ड्रैगन कैप्सूल ऑलरेडी सीन थे.
But with
No, but one more thing that I like about our work and the way we do it is that we don't rule out stuff for no reason just because no one else is doing it.
Even the most absurd ideas.
Yeah.
everything we are making
It's absurd.
is strictly non-standard because it's highly optimized.
Exactly.
And it's like, when people start to design the process, as Pratyush told, it's all bookish. People have crammed. So what they'll do, they'll start off with the research paper and technical documents. They'll take the most constrained values and design the product over there. It's pure about testing and experiments, right? So why now we are not putting directly, let's say, our engines or PLF directly into the vehicle, right? So we can play around with the shapes or angles or let's say area ratios or pressure ratios. We can play with around.
So more than the work, what do you guys think about Celestial Aerospace as a company in terms of one? I would look at it from in terms of admin, whether that be how leniently the HR works with you guys in terms of rules and regulations, and other than that, the freedom. And
फ्रीडम यार देखो ऐसा है कि हम दोनों को तो सुबह उठ के फीलिंग ही नहीं आती कि हम जॉब पे जा रहे हैं. दैट इज द बिगेस्ट प्लस पॉइंट. हमें ऐसा नहीं लगता कि आज यार ये नौकरी करने जा रहे हैं और अरे आज मन नहीं कर रहा है यार, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. बल्कि हम गाड़ी में बैठते एक दूसरे को पूछते हैं आज का क्या प्लान है हमारा. फिर वही पूरी गाड़ी में हमारा डिस्कशन ही होता है कि आज का ये प्लान है, ये खत्म करेंगे, ये करना है, वैसे बात होती है. सो दैट इज गुड. मे बी अभी टीम छोटी है शायद इसलिए.
तो बाद में पसंद आने बंद हो जाएंगे लोग.
नहीं, it's not about that. Eventually, if company evolves, people have to evolve.
Yeah. No, so when he said that, so you're not seeing it from a perspective that if more people come, you'll stop liking it.
No, I will not stop liking it, but मतलब मैंने ये देखा है पुरानी कंपनीज में जनरली कि फाउंडर्स तो यार बहुत पैशनेट होते हैं अपनी विजन को लेके, एंड दे एक्सपेक्ट दैट सेम थिंग फ्रॉम एवरीवन हु इज जॉइनिंग. इवन द 1000 guy that is joining the company, founders want him to be as passionate as he is, but I feel कि नहीं होना चाहिए वो. because that guy will not be उसके लिए सिर्फ एक job है. Just
So
making leaves.
about that, even though I'm very against the yeah.
You're a founder, if you're connected to that guy.
No,
You won't be
about that. No. About that, I feel so. Two things. One, business hierarchy that is there in a company. The plus point is what he said, that from a founder to that thousandth guy, there is a distance, especially in the passion. Okay, but when that goes from founder to person X to person Y to person Z, then to person thousand, would slow degradation benefits the entire process. But in that whole thing, I am against the hierarchy, the company hierarchy, not in the form that it. I'm against it in the traditional format. In this format, it's very beneficial, but I'm against it in the format that for something to reach the founder or the CEO, things go from one person to another person, then to a meeting, then to an admin meeting, and then it reaches.
Yeah, basically,
That's just stupid and a big
bureau-
of time waste.
bureaucracy and
Exactly.
no matter if there are 100 people or 10,000 people, everybody should have the right to approach
Exactly.
higher people.
So
if
that
they have
is-
the good ideas, right?
Yeah, so that is why I'm against the traditional hierarchy. But in many ways, our hierarchy is important and is helpful.
Streamlines.
Yeah.
No, but let's say in one hierarchy chain, if one guy, Steve Jobs said this very famous thing: A grade people can only work with A grade people. If you put them with B grade people, entire team will become B grade.
So that is what I
If
meant.
a
with
B
the
grade
passion.
people comes and that guy, let's say, somehow manages to get into the chain, the entire chain will be ruined.
So two things to that. So one, when I meant that passion degrades slowly and that's beneficial, it's the exact same thing here. And second, even Elon said that your team is only as fast as your slowest employee.
Correct.
मैंने तो पिछले 2-3 दिन में ये realize किया कि hiring is the most difficult job in a company.
Correct.
Hiring correct because you can't judge a person in 60 minutes interview.
Yeah.
And
Interviews honestly don't even last 60 minutes. More than us, the interviewers, people want them to end quicker. They try and push the interviewers off more than anything.
मैंने तो अभी तक figure out नहीं किया what is the best way to take an interview. मतलब ठीक है हम बेसिक क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं बट किस बेसिक मतलब बुक्स तो ऑब्वियसली जब भी आप कुछ डिजाइन करने बैठते हो तो आपके पास
बेसिक इंटरव्यू में बेसिक क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं.
So in that
क्या
case,
लगता है?
what I find the best is give people scenarios and mental simulations.
मैं तो जब क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव होता है कि हाउ इज अप्रोचिंग दैट क्वेश्चन.
So that's why I'm saying like scenarios are a way to understand that. Like certain scenarios to aerospace related concepts.
सबसे
I'll ask
ज्यादा
you
इंटरव्यू
one
क्वेश्चंस हमने तेरे से ही पूछे हैं.
हाँ.
सो तेरे को क्या लगता है कि किस तरह के क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं हम? दोस आर नॉट लाइक बुकिश क्वेश्चंस.
They are not bookish questions.
You to even got a task from our side to do.
Yes.
We did that with the CAD people. We've not done that with anybody else right now.
So basically, the whole process was based on the thinking process. Technical interview पूरा technical assignment भी पूरा thinking process पे था कि how you think about it and how you also the CAD model मुझे ज़्यादा बनाने के लिए basically tested my CAD skills. और CAD model के पीछे का concept वो सब मेरे को सोचना था basically it challenged me on my thinking process.
एक सिंपल सवाल पूछता हूँ ना मैं. यहाँ पे 50 लोग बैठे हैं लेट्स से कमरे पे. आप जाके उनको बोलो दरवाजे तक जाना है.
हाँ.
How many people do you think will jump off this and go?
Correct.
Because people think कि नहीं कूद सकते क्योंकि सब लोग नहीं कूद रहे तो somebody will go from there, somebody will go from down, somebody will go from there. I'll just directly jump and go. और जैसे वो Spider-Man बन जाएगा.
Perfect example for this. I don't know if you've ever noticed or not. Movie hall में
Yes.
दो exit होते हैं और वो they're usually just opposite to each other and they both lead to the same point.
Correct.
But everybody just goes from one exit.
नहीं मैं दूसरे से जाता हूँ.
नहीं basically
मैं दूसरे से हम पिछली
जहाँ-
बार के दूसरे
जैसे
से.
एग्जिट से पहला आदमी जाता है ना सब उसको फॉलो
Exactly.
वही खुला
Herd mentality.
हर्ड मेंटालिटी.
What do you guys think? Are engineers lazy person? Because I think कि
They
lazy
are.
guys are good.
To some extent, yeah.
They should be lazy. They'll find the most
Efficient way to be lazy.
action वाली थ्योरी आ जाती है ना. Shortest path.
मैं उठ के जाने के बजाय एक मुंह बनाने की कोशिश करूंगी मैं यहीं से उसको बोलता हूँ.
बट तब तक तो बहुत देर हो जाएगी ना. तब तक वो बनेगा.
वो बात है.
बट जब वो बन गया
बन गया उसके बाद
उसके बाद
No, you're like from your thing to stop तार खींचो माइक की.
हाँ मतलब ऐसे कुछ भी
कुछ भी कर सकते. अरे इसकी एक बात पसंद आई थी ना. कल हमारी डिस्कशन हो रही थी एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट कि हाउ इलॉन मस्क टेक्स इंटरव्यू, कि आदमी स्टिमुलेट कैसे करता है सेम थिंग। तो ये इसके चश्मे की इशू आ रही थी, ये बार बार किसी किसी चीज में अपने फिक्स कर रहा था, तो इसने कोई पुराना फ्रेम उठाया, उसमें अपने ओरिजिनल लेंसेज को फिट कर दिया और मेरे को दिखा रहा है। मैं भाई ये बोल सकता है तू इलॉन मस्क को, क्योंकि ऐसा कोई सोचेगा ही नहीं ना कि दूसरे फ्रेम में मैं किसी और के ग्लासेस उठा के उसमें फिट कर सकता हूँ। नोबडी थिंक्स लाइक दैट।
ये तो मैंने भी करा था।
गॉगल्स
तूने भी किया होगा, अच्छी बात है।
गैप आ रहा था।
हाँ, gap देखा।
फिर वो भी बोल रहा है हवा लगनी चाहिए ना, मेरी आंखों से पसीना आ रहा है।
मैंने तो लेंस काट दी थी, मेरे लेंस बड़े थे।
तो वो सोचने वाली बात है, बस गिव अप नहीं करना चाहिए आदमी को किसी भी पॉइंट पे। सोल्यूशन आंखों के सामने होता है, दिखता नहीं है बस।
क्योंकि लेंस कभी कभार निकल जाते हैं ना चश्मों के।
देखो भाई ये सब होता रहेगा हमारी कंपनी में, यहीं आ जाओ तुम लोग।
बट हर किसी को थोड़ी आयत कर लेते हैं।
देखो, you get advertisement also here.
कहाँ गया वो ऑर्बिट?
वो रहा प्रत्युष।
इंजीनियर फॉर ऑर्बिट।
खींचना भाई।
अरे जा नहीं रहा।
लेजीनेस ना, अगर वो
अरे एक क्वेश्चन है मुझे आप तीनों से। How is it like to work with someone who's so much younger than you? Honestly, and you can say it because अगर ये सच सच बताना हो, then I can cut it out if it's very.
मैंने तो आज तक जहाँ भी काम किया था ना, आई वाज द यंगेस्ट।
तो उसको तो दिक्कत होती है इस बात से।
जहाँ भी मैंने आज तक काम किया था, मैं सबसे छोटा था वहाँ।
तो आपको दिक्कत होती है इस बात से
दिक्कत
कि
नहीं
आप
होती, मेरे लिए काफी वो है, चेंज है कि ओके यहाँ मैं बड़ा हूँ।
तो then
दोनों
from
से ही बड़ा हूँ।
so from that perspective, do you like sort of to some extent resonate with मुझे क्या लग रहा होगा in certain scenarios, considering that you were also the youngest where you worked पहले?
नहीं मतलब सही है यार, मेरे को ऐसे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं फील होता इस चीज से। गेस्ट हमारे यू डिस्क्लोज इट ऑन कॉल ओनली ना।
Yeah.
क्या 10th क्लास।
So I will tell that to people. I won't hide that fact because many people might find that to be a reason not to join.
तो हमारी आपसे कॉल करने का जब हम दोनों की आपस में बात हुई थी, तो हमारी यही बात हुई थी यार कि 10वीं का लड़का है और कुछ तो बनाने की कोशिश कर रहा है। सो हम जाए नहीं जाए 10 साल में कुछ ना कुछ तो बना ही लेगा। चलते हैं, देखते हैं, काम करते हैं।
नहीं, मैंने तो तुम्हें बोला ही था ना कि मैं कॉलेज गया था लेकिन डिग्री नहीं ली। Then he came, मैं भी 10वीं क्लास का लौंडा।
अरे मैं तो उसी पे ऐड ऑन करा था कि मैं तो डिग्री ले ही नहीं सकता अभी।
मेरे नहीं, ये बोलता मेरे पास डिग्री नहीं है, मेरे को लगा होगा बीटेक बीटेक का पढ़ रहा हूँ, बोलता भाई मैं आई एम इन 10th क्लास। तो ठीक है, हाउ डज इट मैटर?
truly it doesn't matter actually.
मैंने आपको वही बात बोली थी, मेरे लिए एक फाउंडर में सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट चीज वो मैटर करती है कि वो आदमी सही टाइम पे डिसीजन ले रहा है या नहीं। दैट्स ऑल मैटर्स।
तो अभी तक कुछ लग रहा है उसके बारे में
हाँ, यू आर टेकिंग डिसीजंस
प्रॉपरली?
डिसीजन यार, लाइक वो रैम एंड ऑल के लिए काफी गुड डिसीजन।
जैसे कल हम बात कर रहे थे किसको पूल कैसे करें, मैंने ऐसे हवा में ऐसा लॉजिकल इलॉजिकल सा बोला कि पाइप जोड़ देते हैं, चिपका देते हैं, इन 10 minutes you are asking to make cabin and we have those products, right?
Yeah.
I mean that is another good example.
Yeah, he can send someone की pipe ले आओ, then for the filter I told them HEPA filter की
Why to wait and do that
Exactly.
when you can do it? मैं तो एग्जांपल दे सकता हूँ, बहुत सारे
डिसीजन मेकिंग होनी चाहिए और विजन होना चाहिए बस।
जो चीजें हैं बाकी विल लर्न विद टाइम। ये क्या बात है,
हम भी तो
सीख ही रहे हैं। शायद इसीलिए हमारा कुछ भी स्टैंडर्ड नहीं है, क्योंकि हमें पता ही नहीं कि वो चीज फेल कितनी ज्यादा खराब हो सकती है। टेस्ट करेंगे तो पता लगेगा, तो बदलेंगे अपनी माइंडसेट। अभी क्यों कोई भी कंस्ट्रेंट
हम पहले से ही कंस्ट्रेंट कर रहे हैं। हाँ, ये वो लगता है यार मेरे को कि उम्र की ये सब इररिलेवेंट चीजें हैं।
I was asking, say, Umar तो चलो, even if I was a BTech, I would have been still way younger than you. मैं तो उस पर्सपेक्टिव से भी पूछ रहा था कि कंसीडरिंग मैंने बीटेक भी नहीं करी हुई है, there are chances if you were a BTech you would have been restrained by the vision.
चलो ये बीटेक कर दिया है,
ये सच जो ये बोल रहे हैं ना, दैट इज
if you were a BTech, so you would have been restrained by your visionary seat. ये अभी सोच सकते हो, तब नहीं सोचते। हाँ, नहीं, but to be very honest ना, in school also, if I look around me, the people I know, they don't have the capability to be curious or be imaginative.
This logo. So this logo, if I answer that first, So this logo eh, represents the capsule being lifted by the balloon. But at the same time, I couldn't make it very different if I go with the concept of a balloon with a capsule directly attached to it. I couldn't go with that for the simple reason that people won't understand what it is. And from the balloon perspective, it essentially just looked like a pumpkin, and that is not really something that we wanted as a logo of our company first. Second, market acceptance is a very big criteria in any sort of business development. Okay, and this to some extent resonates with a hot air balloon. If I go on the street and I ask a person what is this, they're most likely going to say a hot air balloon. Yeah, so that way people can link it to something with their in their memory or in their head, but something completely out of the
How do
blue.
you balloon space stars?
Yeah.
Stars.
So making
उनको
something
update किया था
completely
लग रहा है,
different, people
basket
won't
को हमने
understand.
return डाल दिया है ना?
मेरा एक और सवाल है related to this key. How important do you think it is for aerospace companies to do the marketing? Should just the work of the company speak for itself, or is it required for the company to do marketing as well? Marketing मतलब PR, मतलब वो PR runs करवाना वो सब.
So I'm going to answer this in terms of deep tech, not just aerospace. Okay. So obviously we're not a consumer company. We don't have to go around marketing our product. We don't have to show people that it's good कि तुम्हें खरीदना चाहिए बल हम जितना ज़्यादा बेचेंगे उतना better. तो हर industry के लिए but we don't have to go around making ads for it. Okay. So as for the marketing of a deep tech company, you have to really understand where you put it. So something that I was telling you yesterday, the door of a lift is not somewhere you would put an ad of a deep tech company. Neither is an IPL match or any sort of OTT, like any sort of viewership break is not where you'll put a ad of a deep tech company. So if I talk about aerospace now in specific as to what we will be doing, we won't be essentially making ads. We'll be increasing our traction, our growth by posting our work from space news channels, science news channels, tech news channels. News channels, I don't mean like TV news, I mean social media platforms. Making videos like these more in depth about each and individual, every project, whether from propulsions, aerodynamics, CAD structures, whatever you're working on, or even the business development of Celestial Aerospace. That is one way. Then, second, it is the representation, public representation. Here, I'm not calling PR as in not the traditional term. If I call it public representation here as to what the public sees about you, deep tech, the work that is being done in the company is very important, and is the biggest source of public traction that there is. Like even today, what we market the most about us is that we have developed the most powerful hydrolux engine in India. And last, for a deep tech company to be known, it is important that the people of the company are known. In that ways, then the person has to do the PR for themselves to be known as the, let's say, the CEO or the founder or the chief engineer of a certain company. So that on a larger scale or on a larger level, it's not the same as any other company for deep tech. It's very precise as to how you do it, but the overall aspects of it are the same. You just need to understand how you're going to do it.
So basically, we have to do it. Only the
Yeah.
audience changes and the
Yeah.
time changes.
Exactly. But there are of
Shouldn't just the work for the company speak for itself?
how do you tell the people about the work?
But
You'll have to
again-
have some way.
Again, now look at it. We have to post so many posts. We have to call so many people so that people can come and join. And let's say tomorrow one news comes up. Celestial Aerospace raises $1.8 million in seed fund.
That's a
Suddenly-
marketing in itself.
Thousands of applications will come. So that is what marketing does. Just like how LAT Aerospace, Zomato, all these things is going, Ethereal is going, all this, every company is doing.
Space.
Home Space is doing, Green Arrow is doing,
Rayfit it.
Rayfit it. So talent starts to come, right? Because they think if people are getting so much of traction. So
Yeah, but-
it's like
What he said, I was going to end with that only, that um, deep tech companies function very well without marketing also.
Yeah.
Okay, because forget deep tech companies. You look at big back end companies. There are a lot of back end companies that function out of India, have their bigger offices in India. A lot of companies' names are not popular, but they have a lot of business because they're not the public domain. They're not functioning in the public domain. They're catering to other businesses. Similarly, deep tech companies, if I take aerospace, they're catering to other companies, other governments, let's say. So we don't need marketing in that aspect. We need marketing in other aspect, and if we want to make an image for ourselves. That's
Yes. I'll just like to add, if you are talking about companies, let's say, who are assisting into manufacturing, servicing, service sector, consultancy, they don't need to do marketing because they have been there for so long in the market. They already have foreign clients.
exactly.
And most overly, aerospace has just started budding. People are thinking it's just the, we are at the peak. Aerospace has just started budding in India.
इंडिया में तो अभी बूम आया है यार.
हाँ, it just
What do
started.
you think क्यों आया?
It started with Agni.
इसरो तो बहुत टाइम.
नहीं. I disagree there. Agnikul and Skyroot are two companies जिन्होंने अपना काम पहले शुरू कर लिया था. The real boom started when the Indian government felt a need for India to be better in the space industry, and InSpace was formed.
Correct. After InSpace only people
Yeah,
started.
if you look at it, every country's government wants to promote a certain sector in their country in terms of private development. If I look at America, during the Biden government, they were very focused on the development of green energies. India right now is focused on the development of space industries, looking at what all in space does, which no other sector is being catered to in that similar manner. Yes, there are sectors, there are certain government aids for biotech and other renewable energies, but nothing as compared to what yeah, or like I was going to say in space is doing, like what the government has done for space development.
It's purely, let's say, a lot of people knows that there are hundreds of startup in our field, but they are not sure which one to join because every second or third day there is some good or either bad news about good or some bad news about some startup, aerospace startup, and we if we are not able to tell people what we are trying to do, how our team culture is, what we are thinking, what is our vision, why would people join us
Exactly.
at this stage? And a product is as good as the team. We want good people in our team.
How
so we have to
how
do
you present it, basically.
correct.
अच्छा, when we वो बहुत बार मैंने टर्म सुनी है कि कंपनी का कल्चर खराब है, कंपनी का कल्चर खराब है. First of all, what do you mean when you're saying culture of a company, and what is good culture, what is bad culture? What is actually culture of the company?
How you treat employees in their highs and lows, how much recognizability they are getting, how much accessibility a person is getting, how much you are thinking about your employee when they are giving your, day and night to you, blood and sweat to you. Everything.
How good is your HR team?
For me, there should be no HR team. We need an HR team. Why you need human resource for humans?
You need
बहुत
someone-
बड़ी बात बोल दी है मैंने, लिख लियो.
someone. You need someone.
Of course, you need human
Your-
resource.
your
Of course,
employees
you
can
need
reach
human
out.
resource for all kinds of streamlining the process. But you need to treat everybody right now. You need to tell a person this is the line we have drawn. You cannot cross this. You have to recognize. You have to see, look at the other person as a person only. Person. They are not like an asset to you. End of the day, they are also human being. That is about that. You cannot choose sides in companies. You cannot think that this guy joined my company first, so I'll only respect their opinions. Or if this guy says that this guy is not good and this guy joined before everyone, this guy always listens to me, all those things messes up the process.
As a founder, what is your perspective? Should loyalty be kept over talent or smartness? Like, say, there is one guy who's been with you from the very first day of the company, but he's not that smart. And the other guy who joined like on the 1,000th day of the company, but he's extremely smart. So, out of those two, which will you?
Whose opinion you are going to
Whose
take?
opinion will matter to you?
So I would honestly take it in a very unbiased manner, whichever one is more feasible, whichever one seems to see. So when for me, if I'm taking someone's opinion on something, it will have to be supported by data to some extent, even if it to the basic level, but it has to be supported by some data. It's not like you're saying X, you're saying Y. You have to explain why you're saying that and what's your basis behind it. and based on that, I'll make my decision as to what we will have a better standing. I'll take a very unbiased opinion. I'll make a very unbiased judgment uh, for whatever facts are being on based on whatever facts are being placed in front of me.
मतलब मैंने बहुत कंपनीज में देखा है कि वाइस प्रेसिडेंट जो पोस्ट है उस पे वो लोग होते हैं जो कंपनी के साथ स्टार्टिंग से थे,
Yeah.
बट स्टिल उस कंपनी में काम करके ऐसा फील होता है कि शायद इससे ज्यादा डिजर्विंग कोई और वीपी बन सकता था, who is much more smarter of that.
Yeah.
Basically, I think
So
if you want to judge a person, you can't judge him on just one thing.
Yeah, you can't.
So, loyalty is loyalty.
No, but if
मेरा
let's say
क्वेश्चन उसके प्रमोशन के
combination of
रिगार्डिंग कि
things,
if you have to make उन दोनों में से किसी एक को वीपी बनाना है, so with which one you will go? The guy who's been there with you, who's seen everything of the company, eyes and knows fund crunches थे, funds आए, offices थे, office आए, या फिर वो जो later stage पे है but he's extremely smart, he can take very good decisions. Which guy will you take? There's no right answer to this.
yeah, but it's a very scenario. It's a very what would I say for it? It's a very specific question based on the environment and the circumstances there and then. So much so many of these decisions are made in emergency circumstance. A lot of the times when a company is going through a certain phase, people make decisions like these for administration purposes. So it depends on a lot of things. I won't talk about it from my perspective. I talk about it from a general perspective as to what happens in a company usually. They're made in a very bad mind space. So, but if I'm to make the decision, I can't tell you an answer to it right now. It's very circumstantial based as to how things are, how they're going, and everything. But of course, even if a person is smart but he's only been with us for a month and the other person has been with us for 5 or 6 months, then it is going to be extremely hard for that smart person who only been there for a month to be the one who's getting promoted to their position. Because even if he's smart, I have no assurance that that person will, stick with us.
Company culture follow करेगा.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was fun. देख लेना भाई,
वो करते ही रहेगा.
एक दिन का काम खराब किया हमने अपना.